College game days heading down to Texas where they're hosting the Alabama Crimson Tide. Coach Sarkisian's heading into his second year after a disappointing first year at Texas. And, of course, Alabama, Nick Saban, looking to keep the war machine rolling, looking for another dominant season this year. Drew, pitching it to you, my first question is, why, there always is hype with this Texas team every year and every offseason. Texas is going to be back. Texas is going to be back. This is our year. The first question is, why is that? And then the second question is, if that's going to be the case this year, what is the coach and these players going to have to do to make that the case?
Well, Texas is very talented. I mean, there's a reason why Texas gets hyped up every year. And if you look on 247 Sports, I looked at it yesterday, just based on overall team talent and recruiting rankings and all that, Texas is ranked sixth. Sixth. That's a team with plenty enough talent to win national titles and make playoffs and win conference championships. So yeah, when you have a team as talented as Texas and a brand as big as them, they're one of the biggest brands in college football. There's going to be high expectations every single year, regardless of what they did the previous season. And I feel like last year was a little confusing for me why people were so hyped up on them. I mean, you're bringing in a first-year head coach, and there's only so much you can ask from a first-year head coach. I think Steve Sarkisian's a really good offensive mind, and I do think he has the potential to be a really good coach. And, to answer your second question in terms of what do they have to do different, well, they have to finish out the game. I mean, look at last year. How many games did they lose? Almost every single game they lost, they had a lead heading into halftime. And a lot of those games, they had a pretty comfortable lead, too. They got to finish some of these games out. And most importantly, you have to win the games that you're supposed to win as Texas. You're not going to win every single college football game. There's no team in college football that's going to win every single regular season game, season after season after season. But a team as talented as Texas, remember, I said sixth. They're sixth in team talent. You can't be losing to Kansas, one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the Power 5. Those are things you have to avoid. And
At home.
At home. And for Steve Sarkisian, that's probably, something he's going to have to work to get out of the players' heads is, getting losses like that out of their minds. I mean, having those many second half blown leads and having those losses to teams as bad as that, it's hard to overlook that, especially after one off season. So, Texas is really going to have to find a way to put all that behind them and realize how talented they are. Now, getting into, more of the personnel and what they have coming into this game, Quinn Ewers, obviously starting quarterback. He looked all right last week. He didn't do anything too impressive to me. But you can tell when you watch him, he does have a lot of talent, and he's a 5-star for a reason.
Yeah, I thought Ewers looked he looked all right against Louisiana Monroe. In the first couple of drives, he looked like he was getting off to a slow start. And I thought Sarkisian did a good job throughout after those first couple of drives, giving them easy throws, quick RPOs, stuff that he doesn't have to really think about. So, you don't have him overthinking and you don't want him to make a bad decision and lower his confidence even more. So that was good on him, helping his quarterback gain confidence throughout the game. And you saw that kind of snowballed and, led to the beating that they gave Louisiana Monroe.
Yeah, and, Quinn Ewers, obviously, he's going to be in for a rough game, and it's going to be very tough for him coming into a game like this. I mean, this dude hasn't had much quarterback experience in college.
Yeah.
So, this is a guy who hasn't seen a team like Alabama. What he's going to see is going to be almost a shock to him at first. And, for Texas, I think they're really going to have to try to start off this game on the ground. Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson's the best college football running back, I think, today. That he's going to be the biggest impact, I think, for Texas's offense. I don't think Quinn Ewers is going to come in here and light it up. I think he has the talent to, but I just don't think he has enough experience to really be comfortable. Yeah, and, being comfortable is one of the biggest things for a quarterback in terms of how well they perform. So Bijan Robinson's going to have to have a big day. Now, I mentioned, we did a video, but I actually had to delete this video for some misinformation I put out. But Texas actually has a couple injuries that they're going to be feeling in this game that they probably didn't have to worry about last game. Junior Ongelau and Isaiah Nair, those are their top wide receiver and top lineman out for this game. And those are just going to be some big losses.
Getting into Alabama, Drew, of course they're returning their Heisman-winning quarterback, Bryce Young. What is the number one thing you think they have to do as a team to get the jump and beat this Texas team?
Yeah, well, most importantly, I mean, Alabama's no stranger to playing these big games. They play almost in a packed stadium every single game. Obviously, you want to take the crowd out of it as early as possible. Quinn Ewers, and they have a lot of new guys playing, so you don't want to give these guys any kind of momentum or confidence heading forward, and I think Alabama does a really good job of doing that. So Alabama's going to have to obviously move the ball down the field. They're going to have to score, and they're going to have to score quick. And I just think it's going to be a lot easier for them down the road. I don't know what kind of team Texas is. We've seen them in the past when they get down, they're down, and they just don't play like the way they should be. So I think if Alabama was to get a jump in this game, I really think that would take the air out of Texas, and this really could be a blowout. I think this game could be potentially closer in the first half than most people think. But another thing I think Alabama's going to have to do in this game is, you like I said, you can't let Quinn Ewers get comfortable. They're going to have to send a lot of pressure. Obviously, Will Anderson, everyone who watches college football knows who he is. I mean, he's a Heisman candidate, defensive player, which you don't see many of those. But he's truly a generational player. You don't get many Will Andersons anymore. As far as running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs, transfer from Georgia Tech for Alabama, he's really, really good. But his knock, and what a lot of people have been talking about, is his size. He's very quick. He can run, off tackle. He's going to be running around the ends a lot. I mean, he has a lot of speed. His knock, and potentially could be seen in this game, is his size and or his ability to run up the middle. You got to have a big power back to really run up the middle when you're playing, these big Power 5 teams, such as Texas, a team who has a lot of size and a lot of talent. Alabama's going to have to make sure they get that run game going, because we know if for some reason Texas is able to dial up some pressure on Bryce Young, we know that's when Bryce Young doesn't play well. And if Bryce Young doesn't play well, obviously they're going to have to rely on the running game to really kind of keep the offense moving. I think Alabama has a talent to, really pick up, say if the slack, say if the passing game isn't really doing good, usually they're good enough to have the running game going, and vice versa. If the running game isn't doing good, Bryce Young's usually able to throw for 400 yards. So, the run game is going to have to be there. But yeah, taking all those things into account, Aiden, how do you think this game is going to go?
Yeah, so you hinted at it. Of course, Texas is a very talented team, just as far as skill level. But whenever you're going against a team that has arguably better talent, that has the culture, the discipline, the head coach, this is a proven team in Alabama, a proven program rather. And the spread's 19. I'm pretty sure 19 points at Texas. That tells you something, right? And my only prediction that I got incorrect last week was the Oregon UGA game. And I learned from my mistakes. Alabama and Georgia are levels above the rest of the field in competition. And I think that all of these other mid-tier Power 5 schools are going to get absolutely destroyed by Alabama and Georgia this year. I feel like they're on a wrecking course to the national championship again. I just think that both of these two teams are so far ahead of the rest of the competition that This isn't going to be a close game. Maybe it's close to start the game, like you said. Of course, Texas has a dominant running game. Maybe they keep the ball out of Bryce Young's hands in the first half and keep it closer than it probably should be. But the number one problem with Texas's defense is missed tackles. Against Louisiana Monroe, they had multiple missed tackles, three missed tackles in one play. And against Alabama, those are going to end up at 6 points. You have the talent advantage, the size advantage, the speed advantage over a Louisiana Monroe. You're not going to have that over Alabama. Steve Sarkisian, say what you want about him, quarterback guru, offensive mind, whatever. But 5-7 last year, he lost games that he should have won. He lost games at Texas that he should have won. So it's just hard for me to believe that Texas is going to make this jump, like all these Texas fans are saying. And I keep hearing this that they're going to open the playbook against Alabama. They were keeping Ewers on the DL, just running the basic stuff. They better. Because I don't even think all the trick plays in the world, they can open up 3 playbooks, and it's not going to be enough to beat this Alabama team. I got Alabama winning comfortably, really comfortably.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like I said earlier, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this game is a little closer than most people think in the first half, especially if Quinn Ewers and the Texas offense is able to limit their turnovers, which is another key I think they're going to have to do. Under no circumstances is Texas going to be able to turn the ball over. They just can't afford it. I don't think they have an explosive enough offense to make up for turnovers, and I don't see them as a team that could score, within 2 or 3 plays like you see with like your Tennessees and your home run hitting offenses like that. Texas' defense, I have no idea what Texas' defense is going to be like. I don't think I've gotten enough of a sample to really see what that defense is looking like this year. Obviously, we know last year their defense was not very good, and like you just hinted earlier, they had a lot of missed tackles in that Louisiana Monroe game. And against Louisiana Monroe, they're one of the worst group of 5 teams. So, I mean, if you can't tackle against them, I'm about to crap my pants if I'm about to have to play Alabama next. I mean, seriously. Yeah. And Jahmyr Gibbs, he's a very slippery runner. He's capable of breaking tackles. I said earlier, he might struggle running up the middle, but at the same time, I mean, this dude, he's still strong. He's still going to be able to break arm tackles. So, I mean, you're really just going to have to make, your textbook tackles. You're going to have to wrap up. You're going to have to drive through. and you're just gonna have to get Alabama off the field. Alabama's gonna score points. Everyone knows that. And Texas, I think you got to have to control the ground game. You got to control the time of possession, kind of similar to what I said about what Notre Dame had to do against Ohio State. That's going to be very important. You have to keep your quarterback comfortable, and you have to keep him in the game. You don't want to put Quinn Ewers in a situation where he's getting hit 5, 6, 7 times a drive. So I think that's probably the biggest thing Texas is going to have to do.
Here, if Quinn Ewers in Texas gets behind the sticks early, and you got Will Anderson, coming off the edge, getting pressure, and you allow Alabama to open up their blitz package, it's going to be a rough night because Quinn Ewers looked rough, like I said, in the first couple of drives. And talking about Texas's defense, they looked sketchy in their first couple of drives too against Louisiana Monroe. Alabama is going to torch this defense. And the one thing about the point spread, I just wanted to say this real quick. 19, like almost a 3-touchdown point spread. It would be 3 touchdowns if it was at a neutral site. You got to factor in the 3 points for the home advantage. Like, you're starting to see these point spreads get larger and larger amongst with these dominant teams. And some people might be hesitant to take these and think it's like a fool's bet, but offenses are able to score so quickly now, and we saw it in the NFL first. These point spreads started, the gap just started to increase tremendously. But it's because these offenses have so much firepower, and they're getting into so many more playmakers and scoring so much faster. Like you talked about the Tennessee offense, that's like a prime, super exaggerated example of it, where they took that and turned it up to 100. So these teams with high power offenses, they can put up 3-4 touchdowns in one quarter, which used to be unheard of, especially for an Alabama team with in the 2000s and 2010s was so reliant on their defense. And then all of a sudden in 1 year, they make this transition to where they have one of the best offenses and some of the best receivers to come through college football in recent history.
Yeah. You pretty much hit it spot on. I mean, everything that you said, I agree with. I haven't even made my prediction yet. You talked about the 19 points. I mean, I just like Alabama in this game. There's no other team that I think is better suited for a game like this than Alabama. I mean, like I said, they play every away game they go to is a packed stadium. Everybody comes to watch them play. This is Nick Saban's 5,000th big-time game in the regular season. I mean, it's nothing to them. It's nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't think Alabama's going to be rattled, and I'm taking Alabama in the 19 points. But anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. It's getting a little long, but let us know down below what you guys think. I don't really think there's going to be much controversy, and I've read some things about even Texas fans knowing what's coming to them. But I am hoping for a good game. I'm a college football fan. I love to see close games. Sometimes it does get tiring to see a bunch of blowouts, so who knows. But please like, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And like I said, just leave down below your predictions as always, and we'll see you guys in the next video.